Hey, man, they're both 4-0. They are both 4-0. Go back to the beginning of the year. Gator, my record for the two teams, Michigan and Michigan State, I had them at 7-5. You had Michigan at 7-5. You had State at 6-6. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yeah. And we took predictions, and that was kind of on par with what most people thought, that they would be rather, mediocre, I guess. And yet, I think there is reason to be encouraged on both sides. Who is more encouraged is subject, or has reason to be more encouraged, is subject to debate. But Michigan State, in a game last weekend where they struggled offensively, especially in the second half, found a way. We talked about it yesterday, and it was great to see such a likable kid like Jaden Reed come through. Peyton Thorne showed some signs of frustration, but found a way. And I think both of these teams are potentially ahead of schedule in terms of, I think, what the expectations were for this season. But we'll see. I mean, who knows? Maybe they won't win another game the rest of this year. I've seen crazier things happen than that in college football. Schedules are about to get a little bit tougher, especially in Ann Arbor. They go to Wisconsin. They go to Nebraska after that. They're home to Northwestern. Then they go to Michigan State. That is their month of October. I think we can safely say about Nebraska and Wisconsin. Gator, you've seen, and we've obviously watched Nebraska up close and personal. Do you think Nebraska is going to give somebody a real issue and beat somebody this year? That they're better than a Scott Frost, 4-8 team?
Oh, I think they're a tough out. I'll say that. I think Nebraska presents problems for teams defensively because they are really good on defense. They're stout. They were stout against Oklahoma, and they continue that against Michigan State. And you're talking about, a Spartan team was able to run the ball pretty effectively for the first 3 weeks and throw the ball effectively, and they didn't get much offense in the game on Saturday night. In fact, they didn't get a first down in the second half against the Cornhuskers. And offensively, Martinez can be a problem. He's an accurate passer. He's really accurate, and if he takes off and runs with it, he can make some people miss, and he's going to pick up yards. I'm amazed that they're not a better team than what they are.
They always make huge mistakes.
Yeah.
Martinez makes huge mistakes. Their special teams is awful.
And the mistakes they made were with dumb penalties is what kills them more than anything else. But there's always an untimely turnover. It's just a matter of time. You think that, can you clean up that? You would think you can clean that stuff up. And I think Nebraska is going to be a tough out for somebody at some point this year. It was tough for Michigan State. I mean, they had to come from behind. They had to go to overtime to do it. But I think Nebraska is tough. I think Rutgers is tough. What they showed against Michigan, and you do it with defense. Mm-hmm. If you bring your defense to the table, you're going to be frustrating a lot of teams. And I'm sure it was frustrating for Michigan not being able to run against Rutgers, just like it was frustrating for Michigan State to not be able to run against Nebraska.
So in Ann Arbor, there's much angst about the second half performance offensively. And there's been growing angst about the lack of a passing game. And now they're about to play the best rushing defense in the country. And, people are thinking, well, if you didn't run it against Rutgers, how are you going to run it against Wisconsin? And so is this turn into one of those games that you absolutely have to win it with your passing game? And doom and gloom is being predicted. And I get it. They haven't shown much. What's ironic is they came off their best passing half of the season in the first half. Cade McNamara was 8 of 10 for 150-something yards, was on his way to potentially a 300-yard game. And then the second half, he completed one pass. It was for like 7 yards. And they didn't do much. And look, there's already calls now for J.J. McCarthy from the fans. And I get it. I understand it because you think the highly recruited guy is got to be better than that. It's human nature. I don't know who should start at quarterback. Sometimes people, I don't get into practice. I do get to talk to the coaches on occasion, but I don't get into practice. When I was allowed into practice, all these things seemed obvious. Like, oh, that's why he's not playing. Like you'd see guys throw interceptions or a guy drop a punt or something like that, and you realize that that's what's holding him back. I don't know if any of that's true of JJ, okay? I'm not reporting that. I'm just using it as an example of you've got a quarterback here who seems to be very responsible with the football in that he hasn't turned it over. He has thrown no interceptions. And this is going back for the 2 years he's played. He's like at 150-something attempts. He's got no interceptions. He's got no fumbles, lost fumbles. He dropped the snap a couple weeks ago and then fell on it. He hasn't been sacked. He gets the ball out on time, sacked at all. And I think the Michigan staff probably feels a sense of urgency. Hey, we got to win. Like, we got to put the quarterback out there that gives us the best chance to win. Now, there's an old saying, don't sacrifice the potentially great to protect the good. I mean, I don't know that they're doing that, but I think that they are going with the quarterback every week that they think gives them the best chance to win. Now, that may change this weekend. If they need to make plays through the air and their quarterback isn't making it.
As a viewer, I was surprised that McCarthy didn't get into the game at some point, and I wonder how close.
He started warming up.
Yeah, I mean, how close is Harbaugh into saying, okay, let's try this other guy? And it's nothing against Cade McNamara. I think Cade McNamara has done a great job, and frankly, I think if you give him a chance to air it out, he would do just fine. But he has to make that decision as well. He can't, just continue. I don't know what his issue was on Saturday, with just checking down and just not finding the open guy or what it was. But it's one thing if guys aren't open and you're just throwing the ball away. It's another thing if you're missing that guys are open. Hey, you went down your progressions too quickly. This guy was wide open.
Yep.
And that's what game film will reveal. There's no doubt McCarthy is a talented quarterback, but so is Cade McNamara.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Cade McNamara is. I mean, what are they? 70% of his drives end up in scores or something, or 60%?
I don't know what the number is now.
It's dropped, but I think it's still up above 60, and he's been incredible for them. And you have to look at the running game has been great, and it wasn't against Rutgers. Now, is that an anomaly, a statistical anomalation? No, I don't know if it is. I would have expected Michigan to run better against Rutgers, but the problem is it's Wisconsin next, and they give no quarter when it comes to the running game.
Well, they're great against the run. Notre Dame's running backs 20 carries, 39 yards last week.
And that's with a really good running back.
But what's strange about Wisconsin, this doesn't seem like a vintage Wisconsin rushing attack. It's kind of middle of the pack in the Big Ten, and their quarterback is making mistakes. Their quarterback, by the way, is the hot young recruit. Their game manager just beat them.
Yeah.
They just went through this. Jack Cohn got hurt. Graham Mertz came in. Do you remember I think it was a Friday night game against Illinois last year.
Yeah,
he went 23 of 24.
And he was remarkable.
And Cohn never got another chance. So now I'm not saying I really don't know what they should do, because it strikes me that they need to open up the offense a little bit more. But you also don't know how many of those plays are called and changed at the line of scrimmage based upon the defense. There were plays that they were supposed to go to the perimeter that didn't get executed that way against Rutgers. So, if you're smart, you learn from it, right?
Yeah.
Anytime you struggle, Michigan and Michigan State, good staff, learn from it, make adjustments, move on.
Well, here is something that I would think that Michigan would like to do as well. And I talk about all the time how a quarterback's best friend is the tight end. We've been hearing for years that Michigan has these great tight ends. Well, throw to them. Use them in the short passing game. It's an extension of your running game, and utilize that, because you might have some mismatches out there. And if that starts to happen, well, then safeties are going to come up a little bit further, and it's going to allow for other opportunities downfield to find the receivers.
Michigan State this weekend is going against the number 2 pass offense in America. They have put up pretty big passing totals. Michigan State's defense statistically, 108th in the country against the pass, 13th out of 14 teams in the Big Ten against the pass. Sometimes those numbers get ride a little high because the teams get behind and they start throwing a lot. But they're also a team that allows 225 yards a game rushing. I think Michigan State loves that, and probably gets the run game going this week against Western Kentucky.
You would hope that that's going to be the case. Now, one of the reasons that that maybe that rushing total is high, I'm just taking a look right now. Yeah, well, they played Army, and Army ran for 339 yards against them because That's what Army does. All they do is run the football. But watching Michigan State so far this year, the last two games have me a little concerned with how much space the corners give the wide receivers. And they really gave too much respect, it felt like, to Miami. And yet, in the end, it was almost like bend but don't break. They were able to take advantage at the end and just, crush the Hurricanes and late in that game and got out to a huge lead. Against Nebraska, the same thing was happening. They were respecting receivers maybe too much, and they were making too many plays, too many third down plays. But Michigan State made the big plays when they needed to. They got the picks, the interception in overtime that looked like it was going to be a pick six, but it ended up being just a nice interception. I'm concerned about what they do back there, and yet I think they're talented there, and I think these guys are getting better. I'm curious to see how they line up against Western Kentucky when they know that they're just going to get the ball's going to be thrown all over the place, because the strength of Michigan State's defense appears to be the rush defense, but what happens in the passing game? We'll see.